Fargo Moorhead.
I say hi. I'll give you one of them as well. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. To the phone lines we go. Mary, you are on News and Views. Go ahead, Mary.
Yes, I have some thoughts about testing for the homeschool students. First of all, I'm wondering how many students are prepared to take an ACT if they have not had any other kind of standardized testing. And the second thing, that is a very, either the SAT or the ACT are extremely important tests, and many colleges will not accept a student if they don't have those scores. Secondly, I'm wondering if we were going to forego all those testing. I wonder how many scholarships that students would not be eligible for without knowing where they are. Those scholarship offers start early on, and someone with a 36, which happens to be a perfect score, is going to be almost guaranteed a free ride, academically, tuition-wise for sure. And there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes along with a test score like that.
Well, and I want to add this. If you're Charlene Nelson and you're active, and she has been, there's been times I've been on her side, there's been times I've disagreed with her. But you know what? You want to homeschool your children, that's a right that you have. Okay? Obviously, she did a good job. If her child scored that well on the ACT, I will tell you this. I've got a daughter that I'm quite proud of that's a nurse, and another daughter I'm quite proud of that's a lawyer. So obviously, we did something right when it came to my kids as well. But I will say that you cannot come on air and tell me that testing, and I'll show you study after study, that testing doesn't matter, and then brag to me about how your child did on the ACT. Those two things don't go together, okay? Those two do not go together, because that, in fact, is exactly what the ACT is. Not to mention the fact that while I might trust Charlene, that doesn't mean I'm going to trust everybody. I don't know that some of these people aren't just keeping them at home and using them for free labor, okay? And so I'm going to make sure that somebody's out there testing them. I'm going to make sure that there's some benchmarks to make sure that everything's going well. And I think that many of the homeschool people want that, rather than lose the ability to homeschool altogether, Mary.
Well, I certainly agree, and I've taught privately, and I've taught in schools, and I'm fully aware of the ability of the extent of education that happens with homeschool students, and it runs from not much to a whole lot. And I know that, and I certainly agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, some of them are great, and some of them aren't. And the reality is, testing is the way to make sure. Jeff, you are on News and Views. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Joel. With all due respect, I think you're wrong on this. It's not that we're against testing, and nor are we trying to take it away from anybody. It's an exemption from high-stakes testing that we have no control over with, which the NEA and many public groups agree with. But
Jeff, the bill empowers you to get rid of testing.
It's an exemption.
Exactly. It empowers you. It empowers you to get rid of testing.
And my final point are and the Constitution backs this up, they're not the state's kids to regulate in the first place. Just like you wouldn't want somebody to put speed limit sign in your driveway, right? But if you choose to go on the public highway, yeah, you should be regulated.
Jeff, if that's the case, then if you're going to use that argument, then hold on, Jeff. Let me ask the question. I'm not going to cut you off. Hold on. If that's the case, then why should you have to educate them at all? They're your kids. They're not my kids. Why should you have to educate them at all?
That's a fallacy argument, though, because it doesn't happen.
So is the constitutional argument a fallacy argument?
What's that?
So is the constitutional argument, because you shouldn't have to put a speed limit up in your driveway, a fallacy argument. Hold on. Let me make my argument. If there's no regulation and absolutely no oversight when it comes to your child's education, then you have complete and utter control. And if you don't think that there aren't some people who are going to abuse that, you're wrong. There has to be a check and balance.
Okay. There already is checks and balances in place for abuse. We don't need more laws for that. The point is that, yes, the Constitution does back up what I'm saying, that the state cannot usurp the parent's right to educate their child and choose the content of their testing when they want to test. And that's all it is, especially a nationally normed high-stakes test, which many other groups, public school groups, are also against because they're seeing it actually dumbs down America because it puts the focus on the bottom instead of the top. And there's a whole philosophy behind this, Joel. I really encourage you to openly look into it and study it because we can show you.
Jeff, what are they so afraid of?
It's not an issue.
Well, sure it is. You're taking sure it is.
Value.
You're taking away the ability for somebody to oversee
Joel,
that test.
Let me finish my point, please. It
Yes.
takes me at least 4 weeks, 2 months to prepare for these tests, okay? This is not, maybe Charlene can do it in 2 days. We can't. So the state is intruding in our home, just like, and now, when I used to be a teacher, I used to be a public school teacher, it's a lot different in a 1 hour a day teaching 20 kids that aren't yours than it is living with them. You are opened up to philosophies in the home that you can't do in the public school arena. And so when you have both the homeschool arena and the public school arena warning us that we're being led down the wrong path by a nationally normed high-stakes test, I think we got to listen, Joel. That's all I'm trying to say.
And that's where we'll disagree. I appreciate your call. Let's get to Neil. You're on News and Views. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, I wanted to talk about Fighting Sioux, but the last caller, I agree with him. Most politicians will send their kids to private school. But getting to the Fighting Sioux, whether it's Ronald Reagan Airport, Hubert Humphrey Airport, Martin Luther King Boulevard, should we?
Neil, that's a lie. That's a flat-out lie.
What do you mean,
I served for 14 years. I served for 14 years. Everybody that I was around primarily sent their kids to public school. We were pretty proud of our public school system. My kids went. My neighbor's kids went. My roommate, Aaron Crowder's kids went to public school. They all went to public school.
Well, the superintendent in Alexandria
don't give me that
to private school.
Well, that's your choice. Maybe you better get on the school board in Alexandria and fix it then, Neil. Maybe you better get on the school board in Alexandria and fix your school district if you got a problem. I'm telling you that I was one of 47 senators, and because I was one of 47 senators, when I went around that room, you go tell Leighton Freeberg, who is chairman of the House Education Committee from Underwood, diehard Republican for years. You go tell them that our public school system stinks to the point where everybody's sending their kids to private school. Because you know what, Neil? That's a lie. That is, you throw those stats out, and then I'm supposed to bite them, and I'm supposed to believe them. And I'm not gonna. Let's get to Pam. Pam, you're on News and Views. Go ahead, Pam.
Hello. All I was going to actually say is that this amendment currently with the HB 1211, as it stands right now with the amendment, is that just removes the monitoring requirement. Homeschoolers are still required to test. So that, it almost becomes a moot point right now because we are still required to test in grades 4, 6, 8, and 10. So now I'm not afraid of testing, but it also shows that teachers will say that teaching to the test is actually a hindrance to their teaching because they're not able to get the quality that they want to get in there. So this is what teachers, public school teachers say. So,
well, I can tell you this, that in my time in the state Senate, what I found consistently was a progressive homeschool teachers who wanted the best for their children. Were never afraid of a test. They were never constantly beating on my door saying, gee, relax this, relax that. They knew that there needed to be some level of control. And how we got to here is absolutely amazing to me. I'm going to go find Darren Diamond and get to Darren Cadlick and find out I got to quit calling him Darren Diamond when his name is Darren Cadlick. You do the same if you're in the area. I need to know more about what, in particular, there's a couple people that are involved with homeschooling that I really trust. I worked with them well, and I know the job that they did for their children, and I know how dedicated they were to their children. So I'd never want to see this watered down to the point where they lose their ability. That's the point I'm trying to get at today. And so I need to talk to some of them. This came at me from Marie today, and I want to find out more about this bill. I can tell you this. A bill with Betty Grandy and Margaret City on the top of it does not lend me to believe that it's the best for children. It just flat out doesn't. And if you find me repulsive for saying that, I'll take it just fine. But you know what? I'm not convinced that Charlene Nelson and all the Tea Party people should be exactly changing every law that's on the books. I'm not there. John, you are on News and Views. Go ahead, John.